What's going on guys, Jin here, and this is what's coming in the Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR, which is dropping really soon. In case you all missed the campfire or didn't look at the notes, this will be going on from April 2nd to April 9th, or if you're in Australia like me, April 3rd to April 10th. So have a watch or put me on in the background and let's get to the notes. So they are changing the affixes on items. They're reducing the amount, making it 3 on legendaries instead of 4, and 2 on rare items. So there's going to be a smaller pool of more potent affixes. They're also going to make the affixes more relevant, which is only going to be a positive thing. Also, only sacred items will drop in World Tier 3, and only ancestral in World Tier 4. This is a fantastic change, as so many times as a level 100 or high level character, you're looking for gear and half of the items you see drop are sacred. This can be especially frustrating when you're doing high tier dungeons, as you definitely shouldn't be getting sacreds in there. Not only do you not use them, half the time I don't even want to pick them up. They're also tuning up affix values to be punchier, so that can only be a good thing, and they're adding some new affixes and changing the positioning of some affixes. As you can see, they've listed a few new affixes here, like resource per second, resource on kill, etc. There's also some miscellaneous updates here, so legendary items dropped from enemy level 95 plus are always going to be 925 item power. This is fantastic once again, as so many times you would find a, let's say, a weapon or an offhand with all the affixes you want, but the item power is going to be like 800 or something like that, and you're almost never going to use that. You would just salvage it because the base item damage is nowhere near high enough. They're also making gems simpler and more useful, with a much longer crafting tail. So gems will now have core stats, which is great, and the more conditional bonuses have been simplified. So a little bit more reminiscent of the gems from Diablo 3. They've also tuned the salvage and crafting rewards, so they're reducing the item drop rates and adding an item re-rolling gold cap when enchanting, which is a really good change, as you don't want to be spending 50-60 million just for one reroll on one affix when you've got the perfect affixes on the other 3 slots, or now the other 2 slots. So really good there. They're also removing some materials and consolidating some other ones, and also Forgotten Souls can now be obtained from Whispers and are now a global rare drop from Elite. This is fantastic, as I hated having to go to the Helltides just to farm Forgotten Souls whenever I ran out. Unique items will also appear earlier. Some uniques will start dropping in World Tier 1 and 2, and all uniques can now drop in World Tier 3. This will help a lot with getting your builds online a little bit earlier than usual. Uber uniques can also start dropping from monster level 55, and they'll always drop at 925 item power, which is just a nice little change as well, I suppose. They're also adding a new crafting system called Tempering. You can now add affixes to your items at the blacksmith with a new reusable item called Temper Manuals, and they'll drop from most in-game content. Once you gain a Temper Manual, they'll be categorized like your Codex of Power and retained for unlimited use, which is fantastic. Each manual contains a handful of affixes, and you're able to attach one at a time. Affixes can be re-rolled up to the item's temper reroll limit, as you can see in the picture. And ancestral items can have 2 tempered affixes from different categories, so for example one from resource, one from mobility, something like that. They're also introducing something called greater affixes, so these will appear on ancestral, legendary and unique items. They're going to be more powerful versions of the normal affixes, with a 1.5 times multiplier on the affix's maximum roll. So an item with a greater affix will have a number from 1 to 4 next to the name to indicate how many affixes are greater. In the example here, it says Helm Ancestral with the 2 next to it, meaning 2 will be greater affixes. Each affix on an item has a chance to be greater in World Tier 3 and 4. You also can't enchant into a greater affix, they can only be found. There's also a new late game crafting system called Masterworking, and that's going to allow you to upgrade items with materials gathered from the pit, which we will talk about in a little bit. So this will improve the value of your current affixes. There are 12 upgrade ranks, and every 4 ranks a single affix on your item will be massively upgraded. Other ranks will slightly increase the value of all of the affixes. They're also updating the Codex of Power, so now all legendary aspects will appear in the Codex, which is amazing. because this clears loads of inventory space from saving high rolls on good aspects, especially if you're playing multiple builds on multiple classes. Your stash would just basically be full of aspects. So this basically eliminates that problem, as now the highest rolled legendary you salvage is stored in your codex, so once you find a perfect aspect once, that's it for that. You don't have to find that ever again. They're also changing the legendary affix ranges, so they will increase based on their item tier, normal, sacred, and ancestral. They've also increased the range of most legendary affixes. The codex has also had its UI revamped, which is awesome, so now it has a manual search and a keyword search. You can also favorite legendary aspects to make them easier to find, which is great. Just some really solid quality of life improvements here. They've also updated the Helltide. So now in Helltides you will generate threat, which will be shown under your Cinder count. Threat is determined by the monster difficulty and how often you open the Helltide chests. If you die, your threat level will be reset. There are 3 tiers of threat level, each tier increasing the danger and frequency of monster ambushes, and at tier 3 you will become Hellmarked. This will initiate a max density enemy ambush, ending with a little boss spawn. This boss will have 5 variants. Once the Hellborn ambush activates, your threat will reset. There are now also accursed rituals within the Helltide, so there will be things called Baneful Hearts, and they can be earned through opening the tortured chests in the Helltide, and they will be used at the accursed ritual locations. Depositing 3 hearts will start the ritual, and a map alert will go out to people in your subzone while a dense swarm of enemies ambush you. The ambush ends with a Blood Maiden's arrival, and she will give a greater reward upon defeating her. They're also adjusting the World Tier 1 and Tier 2 versions of the Helltide, as now all tortured gifts will be mystery chests, which is a nice little update there. Also, there will be no more roaming bosses or those crazy environmental meteors that will kill you when you're not really paying attention. They've also reduced the monster density in World Tier 1 and 2 in comparison to Tier 3 and 4. Next up we have the Pit of Artificers. So when first entering World Tier 4 you will receive a quest to complete a Tier 46 Nightmare dungeon. Upon completion, rune shards will start dropping during your endgame activities. So these rune shards are going to be used to activate the obelisk in Saragar. Activating this obelisk will send you into the pit. Your goal in the pit is to slay enough monsters before a 10-minute timer runs out. If you die or anyone in your party that you are doing the pit with dies within the pit, the first death will count as 30 seconds to the timer, the second death will be 60 seconds, and death 3 and onwards will be 90 seconds. So if you kill enough monsters, a portal will appear and grant you entrance into the boss's arena. Killing the boss before the timer expires will grant you Masterworking materials and unlock the next tier of the pit. If you kill the boss with 4 to 6 minutes to spare, you'll be granted an additional tier unlock. If you have 6 or more minutes left on the clock, you'll get 2 tiers unlocked. And the pit is going to have hundreds of tiers, so there's a lot to do there. If the mastery timer expires before finishing your run, you'll receive loot, but not masterworking materials. The pit can be tackled as a group, as I mentioned, but the player opening the pit receives the lion's share of materials. Also, only the player who opened the pit has a chance to receive materials for summoning the Tormented Echoes, which are the Uber versions of the Uber bosses. So for the boss ladder updates, Andariel is going to be in the Season 4 PTR, and she's going to have the same Uber unique drop rates as her brother Duriel. So parts for Andariel's summoning come from the Beast in the Ice and Lord Zir. As for the Tormented Echoes, Stygian stones, along with an increasing amount of summoning mats, are used to summon all of them, and those are obtained from the pit. The Tormented Echoes will be level 200, and all of the items they drop will be item level 925. Defeating your first Tormented Echo will give you a Resplendent Spark as a first time reward, and that reward will be account bound. So what do you get when you go into the PTR? Well, your campaign completion, mounts and skill points, and Altar of Lilith stat bonuses will be transferred over, and you'll also be able to instantly boost the new character you make to level 100 by talking to an NPC in Kyovashad named PTR Boost. Upon boosting, you'll get 100 million gold, 1000 obols, 2 random sets of ancestral gear at item power 920, so at least you'll have 925 to go for. You'll get upgraded potions, fully unlocked paragon glyphs, and up to 10 class-specific tempering manuals. You'll also get a base amount of all consumable materials, That doesn't include materials for resources specifically earned for Masterworking, or Scattered Prisms, or Resplendent Sparks. You will though get materials to enter the Pit and Nightmare dungeons. You'll also have complete access to the class system mechanics. You can also repeat the boost for every character you make on the PTR, and you can trade between characters as needed. Fog of War will also be completely cleared, and additionally, regardless of whether you choose to boost or not, legendary drop rates will be doubled. They're also leaving a few things out, and the Codex of Power is also not going to be fully unlocked. There's also a place to provide feedback. You can press escape while in the in-game menu, and that will bring up the Report a Bug menu. So you can go to the drop-down filter there, select the in-game feedback tool to provide feedback from within the game. Now to get into the PTR itself, you'll just have to open the Battle.net app, go to Diablo 4 like you usually would, and above the play button, there'll be a little drop-down menu there, and from there you can just select Public Test Realm, and once it's installed you would just click play and go into the game like you usually would, and make your character, then talk to the Kyover Shed guy, or not. The last thing that's listed here are just the full class updates and full patch notes, and that's basically just really long, a huge list of things they're changing, like all the balance changes, the item changes, everything to do with the classes and things like that. So that's going to be there, and I'm going to link all of this in the description below if you want to check it out yourself, because there is so much in there. So besides that, that pretty much wraps up everything you need to know for the PTR that is upon us very soon. So I hope to see you in there, and if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, whatever, all that stuff, hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and hope you have a good rest of the day, and see you in the next video. Bye!